Good morning, everyone. This is Tanya with First Saturday's Vintage, and I'm going to do a project on how to turn framed artwork into chalkboard. Okay, for this project, you will need sandpaper, an angled brush, Kilt's primer, and you will need gloves for your hands. Okay, this is the picture that I was telling you about that I bought at a thrift store, and I'm going to repurpose it into a chalkboard. The frame is just absolutely beautiful, but the picture is not something that I really particularly like. The first thing that you do before you do anything, you want to make sure that you get a picture that doesn't have glass. So this doesn't have glass, and it's on canvas. And so it does have some raised edges, kind of where it has been maybe painted, oil painted on canvas. So I'm going to take the sandpaper and just give it a good sanding. For the same. We're going to take a brush, and this is Kilt's primer. So you want to do that first. And go up to the next step. I'm going to do the chalkboard. And what you do is you take your chalkboard paint and you'll load it up on your roller. It's pretty thick. Now this is after I have I had to give it 2 coats of the primer. And the reason being is because I actually had to go back and sand it with the electric sander because the paint strokes were so uneven that I actually had to take an electric sander. You wouldn't always have to do that. Usually just sandpaper will do the trick. But in this instance, I had to do that. So this had to sit overnight. And now I'm going over with my coat of chalkboard paint. And this may take 2 coats as well. Now, I'm doing this first. Then, once I get this coated really good, I will put tape around it and cardboard it off to do the frame. And you really don't have to worry about getting it on the frame because you can go back and paint over that. We're going to go back and paint over that anyway. But see, it's thick, but it'll probably need 2 coats. This isn't hard to do, but it does. You probably need to make plans to make this a weekend project instead of a one-day project, because like you have to let it sit, like you would do your coat of primer and let it sit overnight. You may want to try starting on Thursday night if you want to do it as a weekend thing, and then Friday night do another coat of your primer. And then Saturday, finish it up. That's how you could do it. Because like I say, it's not hard. It just takes some time to, for the drying to take place. And then in the edges, we can take the angle brush and just get the edges like that. I'm not very neat when I paint, so but like I say, it's very forgiving because we can go back and we'll tape all this off to do the frame, and then everything will even up. But see, this is going to have, you can see the white primer through it, so it will have to take another coat. You want it to be even though. I'm gonna go back over it with a roller and get it even, and then let that dry. That'll need to dry at least 12 hours. So there's your next step. What I'm going to do is I have taped off the chalkboard so that we don't, and put a piece of cardboard in the center so that we don't get the white chalk paint onto the chalkboard paint. So now I'm going to tell you, when you get the paint that is black for your chalkboard, it has to say chalkboard paint. But the paint that we're using for the outside frame is chalk paint. But you can also do a spray paint if you would like, and it'd be, it'd be more uniform, and you would just take very lightly. You would spray in very quick spray so you don't get any runs. But I like, since this is so ornate, I'm just going to dry brush this. And it's going to look really shabby chic, which is my style. Everyone has their own style. And so if you like something that's more formal or more contemporary, then by all means do the spray paint. It's your project, so there's no right or wrong way to do this. But what I do is I take my paper towel. Here's the paint that I'm using. It's the One Step Amy Howard paint, and it adheres to your surface. You don't have to sand it or anything. And then I take my brush, I dip it in the paint. I dip it in the paint like this, and then I just dry brush. I get as much off as I can, and then I do a dry brush. And when you do a dry brush, it just hits the high places of the frame, and you can do as much or as little as you want. But I just love this frame. It's so ornate, and it's just perfect for this kind of technique. And if you these are great to give as gifts, to decorate your own home with. And it's very inexpensive to have on hand for a shower, for a bridal shower, for a gift for someone's birthday, just because. Any kind of gift, do Christmas gifts. I mean, I paid $4 for the frame, so and then all I've got in it is what it's cost me to do the paint and the time. But this is taking a little more time because, like I say, the painting itself had a lot of issues. It didn't have issues, but it had a lot of places that I needed to sand out so we would have a uniform surface for the chalkboard paint. And plus it has to dry in between. That's what takes your time, is your time that you have to dry in between. But if you have a place that you can leave this, and just keep it out for to finish, then you just keep going back to it. So there you go. We're going to let that dry, and then we'll be back and do the finished product. Well, I'm happy to say that the frames turned out great. I'm very pleased with the way they look. And this project is just one of many that I'm going to be doing as a series. So stay tuned for more projects and more things that you could take trash into treasure.